to be talking about a partnership between a larger corporation and a much smaller organization. Because we've been focused on big charities, and there are a lot of people in this room who do work for small and mid-sized charities. I'm not sure how we define that, but I think many of you would define yourselves as working for a smaller organization. So we wanted to provide a little bit of content on that. So Shelley Mayer is going to facilitate the panel. Shelley is from Ramp Communications. We have a slight change in our agenda. That is not Shannon Gorman. That is Jennifer Kirner from TELUS. I know Jennifer, and I can assure you she is a wonderful replacement for Shannon. And we are also joined from Kids Health Links Foundation, Basile Papaevangelou, who's going to talk about and represent, and I've had the opportunity to speak with Basile over the phone, and I'm sure he's going to entertain you as much as he did me over the phone. So I'm going to turn things over to Shelley now to moderate the next panel. Over to you, Shelley. Thanks.
Okay, thanks. Excellent. So I first met Basile and the folks at TELUS when Basile came to our firm and wanted to help us. Wanted us to help them raise the profile for the Eupopolis platform, which he'll talk a little bit about. And I was really impressed when I began to understand the depth of the relationship that Basile and the Kids Health Links Foundation has been able to really cultivate with TELUS. We deal with we're a social impact branding and marketing agency, and we deal with many charities and nonprofits. And there's a common theme that we find in that, which is that organizations, can we just go back to the prior slide? Just leave it at the previous slide, maybe? Thank you. And there's a common thing that we find with a lot of the organizations that we deal with, and that is that they struggle with capacity building. So having the revenue to grow their organization, grow their profile, and actually seek that awareness position that helps them then fundraise and be able to scale their operations. And when approaching corporations, sometimes the struggle is that a company is expecting a lot and the capacity just isn't there to deliver on. So I think this is a really interesting example. I've been so impressed in working with the TELUS team in the 6 months or so since I've been working with Kids Health Links Foundation on the depth of this partnership. So that's why I suggested that they join me for the panel today. So I guess we'll start with Jennifer, and maybe you can just tell the group here a little bit about your role at TELUS and the TELUS philosophy around partnerships.
Sure. Thank you so much, and thank you for having me here. Apologize if I'm going to be looking at my notes a little bit. I just found out 2 days ago that I was going to be doing this, so no pressure in standing in for your boss at all. Jennifer Kirner, I manage the community affairs team across Eastern Canada, so that's 6 people, all based in different cities. And I've been working at TELUS for 11 years, so pretty much almost as long as the partnership with Kids Health Links. Our philosophy at TELUS is very much community focused. You might have heard the We Give Where We Live. I know there's a lot of partners in the room. I think every table I see a familiar face. So we really focus, and especially on the philanthropy side, really digging down deep into what are the needs of the local communities and where are our customers based, where are our team members based, and that's where you'll find a lot of presence in those areas, which makes a lot of sense. With one of the reasons we partnered with Kids Health Links.
Great, thank you. And Basile, just maybe you can explain a little more about Kids Health Links Foundation to the group and how the TELUS partnership has really helped the organization.
It's a pleasure, and thank you very much for inviting us, Shelley. I guess it all began, we are a grassroots charity. We have no employees. We have contractors who are clinicians who support our work, but we're a grassroots charity, and it was inspired by my daughter Christina's near-death experience in 2004 when she suffered from a massive blood infection known as toxic shock. But she did survive that, and I wanted to give back. And then a little bit later, a year later, a friend of hers, Katie, passed away after a long hospitalization and battle with cancer. And in 2004, I see all of you have your little phones and smartphones. Computers weighed about 14 or 10 pounds on a laptop, and you couldn't haul them anywhere, especially with kids in hospital, right, in chronic illness. But anyway, we founded, and Katie said, her mother said, Katie missed her computer. So that was really the inspiration for me to think about, and I sat down with Christina and, you know, I asked, well, I'm a mechanical engineer, by the way. Why did she miss your computer? You know, Word documents, Excel spreadsheets. Anyway, so we founded Eupopolis because Eupopolis is a private, safe, secure online community for hospitalized and chronically ill children. It's across the country. It's in pretty well all the children's hospitals. It's offered for free. It's in about another 30 clinics, pediatric care and general hospitals, and pediatric clinics across the country. So it really is. It is not a social media platform. That's what I tell the clinicians. I don't have to anymore. If you want a social media platform, use Facebook, right? We are a private, safe space where sick and chronically ill children can connect with other sick and chronically ill children to share their experiences, and where our clinicians are on that site, not only watching the activity, but enabling the activity and holding fireside chats on specific illnesses. So that's what Eupopolis is, and that's why it began.
And I think the partnership is about 12 years, correct? That this partnership's been in play. Jennifer, maybe I'll ask you, why did TELUS want to help the Kids Health Links Foundation really make Eupopolis a reality? And what was the connection to that cause for your team?
Yeah, so it really is a natural partnership when you kind of dig deep into it. TELUS's strategic intent for the past 19 years has been to unleash the power of the internet for Canadians at home, at work, on the move. And you know, we're a technology company. We're providing opportunities for people to go online, so we need to find ways to keep them safe online. And so maybe we should have changed it to at home, at work, on the move, and in the hospital as well. Back in 2007, when when this partnership started, that was when TELUS was really starting to get into the healthcare space. 2008, we bought Emergis, and that's when it really kind of started. So we were getting into the healthcare space. Our focus was on youth and keeping youth safe online and growing. We really looked at a lot of smaller grassroots charities on the philanthropy side as well, which is where a lot of the initial funding for the different locations came from, or they came from our community boards. So really focusing on, the community boards really focus on grassroots organizations and providing the opportunities for them to become more sustainable, get more partnerships by having a large organization like TELUS also backing them up.
Mm-hmm. And Basile, what have really been the benefits to Kids Health Links Foundation at having this partnership in play for you?
I think we'll get into a little bit of the detail maybe later, but at the highest level, I would not be here today if it wasn't for TELUS, and Eupopolis would not exist. The message. The thing that we wanted to do, or we did, working with TELUS, is to get them to understand the impact that Eupopolis can have on a chronically ill child. You might not know this, maybe you do. I think Sick Kids is in the room somewhere. There are two personalities to a sick child. One is the invincible one, and that's the one they show their friends. The other is the ill one, and that's the personality that really attracts them to Eupopolis. So TELUS has been there for us for 13 years. They made Christina and my dream come true. This all began by me and my daughter, 14 at the time, sitting down and doing dot jots on what was important, because she spent time in hospital as well. What was important? Why did Katie miss her computer, right? And two people in Oakville, a town that thinks it's a city that probably is a village. You know, like we're out in the blue when you talk about grassroots, and yet we were able to have a dream to take it national, and TELUS did that for us. We made the impossible possible. That's the other thing I wanted to say. In the early days, I met with somebody who was a senior professor at university that shall remain nameless. He was in the clinical space and also the technology space. And he said, it's impossible. This cannot be done. Well, he was wrong.
And I mean, I think from my perspective, what I've seen in the time that we've been working together is that it's more than just the money. There is some monetary support that comes from TELUS to help your organization. But I think, in a role like we're challenged with, which is how to get exposure for this tool and this platform, being able to tap into TELUS's knowledge in the health sector, some of the healthcare professionals, and having the technology background. Right now we're working on making updates to their website, and instead of having to pay for that, there's a team within TELUS that's supporting the actual updates to the website and some of those foundational things that are needed. So I think there's been so much that's really helped on that capacity side. I think it's a really interesting, there was a question in the previous panel about how a smaller organization can actually reach and get connected with an organization like TELUS. And incidentally, that was one of the questions that we had chatted about as well when we were preparing for this. So maybe you can talk a little bit, Basile, about how the relationship with TELUS came about and just what you were able to do to leverage that.
I certainly can. My background, by the way, is mechanical engineering and aerospace. If anything is more distant from health than that, I can't think of it. And the other part is my network at the time really was in aerospace. So I had no network in the health space. I had no network in the technology space. But I was able, through a number of connections, I was approached, I did not approach, to be a member of a TELUS advisory board. And in that process, you exchange, so what are you into? What do you do? And I talked about our foundation at the time. It was a gleam in my eye, really. I call it vaporware. But it touched some senior executives at TELUS. But in the end, that wasn't enough. In the previous session, there was a question about how does one, get a champion? Yeah, you want a champion. And I don't want a champion in the philanthropy side, because God bless them, they're checklists, right? You need a champion in the organization on the business side, and to actually get it. And then you don't only want one champion, that's your pope. You want cardinals and bishops, right? So it's just not, okay, I got so-and-so, and now it's good. No, because there's barriers in the organization. We got money from businesses that didn't want to give it, right? So there had to be more than a pope to make that happen. So yeah, did I answer the question?
Yeah, for sure.
You like the Pope analogy?
Yeah,
I like the Pope
that's a good one. And Jennifer, from your perspective, what do you think some of the key success factors have been in this relationship?
Well, I think we both started small and grew together in this relationship. But I think one of the key things that Basile didn't mention in the last piece is he also appealed to our community boards. Oh, yeah. And our community boards are really made up of members of the community who make some of our philanthropy decisions for us. So it's not TELUS making the decisions where the money should go to a grassroots organization in the GTA or in Halifax or in Victoria. It's people from those communities. So not only did he appeal to people at TELUS and some of the popes and bishops and cardinals, but he also appealed to the community.
And the priests.
And so I think that's a key factor as well. Because a lot of the original money, like I was involved in the launch at Sick Kids, for example, that came from the GTA community board. So it wasn't TELUS, it was the community making those decisions. So I think that's also really important. And since the partnership began, Kids Health Links has grown across Canada. They were in just one spot when I started at TELUS, and 2 the next year, and then 3, and then 4. And it's just grown so much. And similarly, we've grown a lot in the IT space. So it really has turned out to be really quite strategic for both of us.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things I've been really impressed with is the level of passion that I see on both sides of the organization. So when Basile first said, well, one of your tasks as our new marketing agency is to help us use all the resources that TELUS has available and help us market this platform, I thought, oh, that's going to be something to navigate. But I've found that there are so many individuals in the organization at TELUS that are really passionate about the cause. No matter who I speak to, when I mention Basile's name, they say, I love Basile, he's awesome.
I love you too.
So I guess, my question is kind of to both of you. I don't know who wants to jump in first, but what has allowed you to cultivate that shared sense of passion for this cause within your organizations and your various relationships?
You want to go first?
I can go first, sure.
Go.
Well, I think it's definitely been a shared success and a shared failure, right? So if it's going to grow, we're going to grow together. If we're going to fail, we're going to fail together. So everybody's got something invested in this. And I think when it comes to kids especially, everyone can relate. Everyone has known somebody or has been that sick child. I was that sick child. Yeah. It was a lot before Christina. There was no Be Populist back then, but man, it would have saved a lot of boredom for sure. And I think that's the thing. Everyone instantly saw how it fit on both sides, why it made sense from a TELUS perspective, and why it made sense for you to partner with us.
Absolutely. Where do I go with this? The word passion doesn't come without love. So first you got to get it, the concept, which TELUS did because of their business and their health space. Then the individuals in the organization, lay people, regular team members and the bishops and the have to get it, and somebody has to love it. I have the passion because I love it. My daughter's life was saved. I see the impact it has on kids. I get a goosebump speaking to you about it, right? If you're into the corporate bureaucracy and you don't have somebody loving it, then the relationships don't last. They're 1 year, 2 year, click the box, thank you very much. But we've had a 13-year now relationship, and TELUS gets it.
Which is really quite entrenched through many people in the organization. I think that's one thing that I've found. There's a key individual that I think has also helped to contribute to that. Did Dave end up joining us? Is Dave here? Dave Thomas?
I guess not.
I guess he didn't make it. So Dave Thomas, I met around the same time I met Basile, and he is on the Kids Health Links Foundation board, as well as part of the TELUS team. And so I think, maybe Basile, you can speak to how that interesting, having Dave join your board in those early years and still be a board member today, how that's really been a helpful strategy, I guess, in enhancing the relationship.
Absolutely. We got lucky with David because not only is he got business experience, he has business experience in the health space of TELUS's health space as well, and that's where we play. He's a technology person in that space. And he is, I mentioned it to Shelley the other day, that I have never seen anybody wear two hats that are so separate and wear them so well. Because you're a director of a foundation, you have certain roles. You're an employee of a corporation that funds and supports this foundation. That's a different role. And it's not a balancing act. He lives it on both sides. Yesterday we were talking about the technology implications and the privacy and security implications about going to the US. Like, where am I gonna get that kind of advice for free, right? Come on. And they're lawyers, right? Anyway, so David has been a wonderful channel in the organization, a wonderful member of our governance team. And and we got lucky. I mean, sometimes it's not only love and getting it, it's luck.
Yeah, and I've seen as well, there was some discussion in one of the previous sessions about linking to values and the values alignment and the goals and purpose of an organization. And I've seen firsthand in meetings, David really be able to help bridge that those common interests and make sure that the interests of TELUS are, at the table when we're having discussions about the direction for Eupopolis and vice versa. So is this something, Jennifer, that is common to have a TELUS employee also fill a board position for one of your supported partners?
Absolutely. It's really part of our culture at TELUS. We're widely recognized around the world for our culture. So it's not something that we assign or it's mandatory, but we find a lot of especially our senior leaders, well, all of our team members actually are very passionate about causes, and we do a lot in the volunteer space, a lot with our partners to try and encourage awareness within our team. So we find a lot of people step up and want to be involved in a more senior strategic way than just planting a tree or painting a wall. So.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity on that employee engagement side that has been also discussed at some of the earlier sessions. I guess, Jennifer, I'm wondering, what advice would you have, like thinking about the people here at today's session, what advice would you have for somebody looking to establish a partnership? Very much, similar to some of the questions that were posed to the CIBC team, but what advice do you have for the group?
Yeah, I was smiling as I was listening to the CIBC panel before this because it just aligned. So I agree totally with everything that they said. But a lot of times charities will come in without ever having met somebody, first meeting with something really big and grandiose without actually having had that conversation. So the first thing I would say is have that conversation first. Don't come in with your proposal all ready to go and assuming you know an organization. Most organizations don't know that we're the #1 health IT company in Canada. They see us, they know our critters, they know our mobility. So finding out those little nuggets could be the key between having that right fit or going off on a totally wrong tangent. So research is really important. Having those conversations is really important. If you can get a champion, that's amazing as well, because they can help give you those pieces of information before you have that first meeting as well, or making sure you have that meeting with the right people, because often with large organizations, we're really hard to navigate. We know it, we're sorry, but it's true. So getting that, you don't want to have 7 conversations before you get to the right person, so that can help with that as well. Also, reciprocity is important. Knowing a person's goals is important. Of course, we hope that you would give us a chance to be your provider as well, but we know that's not always necessary and it's not always possible. But definitely helps. I think that question was posed to CIBC as well. And then really looking at some of the other things that we're doing in the space. So for example, we just launched our TELUS Future Friendly Foundation. So knowing that coming in and knowing those priorities and that we have a local focus will really help.
Great. Excellent. So I think we have a little bit of time for some questions. So there's some questions coming up. Great. So many corporations only support charities, but there are many grassroots organizations or youth group organizations doing great work. What opportunities is TELUS creating to engage those groups that are not charities?
This is actually a question I get pretty much weekly, I think, because we do a lot of, the best partnerships come from collaborations, right? So we work with a lot of nonprofits that work with charities. So oftentimes people get dismayed when they go on our website and say that the community boards can only fund charities. But there's a lot of great partnerships or a lot of great opportunities that can be developed because of that. And we've seen a lot of wonderful partnerships and a lot of growth and a lot of things come out of organizations that couldn't have done something on their own, but when they started partnering with a charity, they were able to go so much further. So we definitely do work, and both in the volunteer space and the funding space with organizations that are not necessarily registered charities. So.
Great. How does Kids Health Links Foundation continue to steward the investment from TELUS? Are there formal reporting requirements and metrics? It's a great one. Mm-hmm.
That's a super question. The answer is, stewardship with a capital S is not in our, it's not so much in our ability But the stewardship, like a large foundation could do, requires overhead and resources. We don't have overhead. We don't have an address. But we do stewardship our way with our clinical team who do report on our users, the time they spend in the space. We have newsletters that go out to the TELUS team on our monthly activities within the Eupopolis space. We also have 2 other programs, one in mental health and one for child and youth mental health professionals. So yes, we do report on a regular basis. And we have David on our board, and he takes the message back, right?
Yeah, I think that was one of the things that Shannon raised when we were chatting in preparation for this, was that one of the benefits of having a board member that is really operating inside the organization means that that information about what's happening, the impact that's happening, that can come back to the company in real time, as opposed to expecting a small organization like Kids Health Links to be providing tons of written reports and documentation. You know, there's a person with a real insight into that impact that the organization's having that can bring that message back to the TELUS executive team. So I think that's another key part of the role. So I believe that's the last question. So I'll just ask, do you have any final thoughts that you want to share with the group just before we wrap up? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll go first. I have 2 final thoughts. One, I was so pleased as punch to hear the previous speakers from CIBC talk about their support of grassroots organizations, and a partnership with a large organization like TELUS gives you some credibility. We are looking for an enabling sponsor for our mental health, our kids youth content site called UMind in Eupopolis. So there you go. And the final one, really, it's all about TELUS, right? There's nobody. I don't think there's a TELUS person in the room, unfortunately. But you can take that out there. I love them. We love them. They're an amazing organization. Oh yeah, you can take that back.
I will take that back. And you don't get if you don't ask, right, Basile? Just to top up, I mean, and it kind of goes along with that last question that I was asked about how there are ways that we work with organizations that are not necessarily charities. We do a lot of work in this space, so I do encourage you to go online and learn about some of our For Good programs. We have an Internet for Good program where we provide low-cost internet to families on social assistance. We have a Mobility for Good program where we provide free phone and free service for 2 years for kids aging out of the children's aid programs and when they become adults. We have a Health for Good program where we provide healthcare and a lot of our healthcare expertise to Canadians living on the street who don't have access to healthcare. And we just started a new program, Assistive Technology for Good, for people who maybe can't use their hands or need other ways to access devices, to enabling them access. So we do a lot in the space, particularly around youth, but also for all vulnerable Canadians that doesn't necessarily have any implications or any connection to CRA or have that CRA number. So take a look at those for sure.
Thank you. Thank you both for joining me for the panel today and sharing your thoughts. It's been great. Thank you.